Let's dive into the Broncos' search for a veteran tight end. After bringing Evan Ingram in for a visit, it's clear they're looking to add some experience to that position. But as of now, Ingram still hasn't signed with the team. This could mean the visit didn't go as well as expected, either on the Broncos' side or his. So let's take a closer look at some potential trade targets and free agent options for the Broncos' front office. Ingram spent the day with the Broncos, even sharing a dinner with them. Sounds like it could have been a fun time, right? But despite all that, no contract came out of it. I wouldn't say it's a done deal that Ingram won't join the team, but if the Broncos were really interested in him, they likely would have offered him a contract right away. If they had, I don't think Ingram would have dragged his feet to explore other offers. That would only risk upsetting the team, and I can't see that happening. Now, don't get me wrong, if Ingram does end up signing, I'd be on board. He's had some injuries that kept him off the field in 2024, but in 2023, he nearly hit 1,000 yards and scored 4 touchdowns. While I'm not sure he's the joker tight end that some people expect, he definitely improved the Broncos' red zone offense. And let's be honest, anyone would be an upgrade over last year's tight end situation, which was by far the worst in the NFL. So while I'm not completely sold on Ingram, he could still be a solid addition if it works out. But if he doesn't end up with the Broncos, I'm not putting all my hopes on him, especially when there are other tight ends still out there that could make a difference when the postseason rolls around. Speaking of which, let's look at some of the other free agent tight ends still available. Tyler Conklin and Gerald Everett. I know you're probably thinking, yikes, these guys don't sound much better. And honestly, they're not the top tier names that might get fans excited. But surprisingly, they're among the best tight ends left on the market. I don't really see Denver making a huge splash with a big tight end signing right now, mainly because honestly there's no one out there worth a huge contract. So that leaves them with 2 clear options. They can either make a trade or go the draft route. Trading is more expensive. You'd have to give up a draft pick and take on the player's salary, which could also mean offering an extension. On the other hand, the draft is the cheaper route. It also has the potential to bring in a star, but it's a lot more unpredictable since you never know who will be available when it's your turn to pick. Now, wrapping up the Evan Ingram talk, since he's been such a popular name on Broncos Twitter and social media, do I want him to sign with Denver? Honestly, I'm taking a middle ground approach. I'm not going to be the one championing the Get Ingram to Denver movement. If he signs, great. I'll look for the positives and keep a positive outlook. But if he doesn't, I won't be heartbroken either. It's not a huge miss for the Broncos in my eyes. Now, let's talk about potential trade targets for the Broncos. I've got 2 names on my mind, and the first is Mark Andrews. His name came up during the NFL Combine, and the way the Ravens front office spoke about him, it almost felt like they were saying goodbye. They were extremely thankful for everything he's done in Baltimore, but it definitely seemed like they were preparing to move on. That got me thinking, Baltimore might be open to trading Andrews and letting Isaiah Likely take over the reins. Everyone knows Andrews for his key drops in the playoff game, but aside from that, he had a very strong 2024 season. He scored 11 touchdowns, one of the best in the NFL and one of the most in his career. He started off slow, but finished strong with 673 yards. Now, I know that's not mind-blowing, but that's about 500 more yards than any other tight end on the Broncos roster. Plus, if you look at his track record, he's a Pro Bowl caliber, all-pro tight end. And at under 30, he's still got plenty left in the tank. I honestly think the Ravens are open to moving on from him, and this could be a great opportunity for Denver to address their tight end issues through a trade. After missing out on a few tight ends or realizing that the meeting with Ingram didn't go as planned, the Broncos might shift their focus to the trade market. From there, they could also turn to the draft, which is a natural progression in addressing their tight end needs. Now, there are 2 tight ends that could be in play for the right price. I've always said here that I don't expect the Broncos to make any big, splashy moves for skill position players. They've never really done that in the past, and I don't think that's going to change. No big trades for wide receivers or big signings, maybe with the exception of Cooper Kupp, but we'll see. When it comes to tight ends, considering how rough the position was last year, Denver might be getting concerned. They know that players like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland might be taken before they pick at number 20 in the draft. That could create some urgency for a trade. As we get closer to the draft, it's becoming clear that Warren could very well go in the top 10. If that happens, the Colts, who were expected to take him at number 13, might have to pivot to someone like Loveland. With Denver sitting at number 20, it could be too big of a leap to trade up to grab Warren, and they may not want to part with a first-round pick next year to do it. So if it turns out neither Warren nor Loveland falls to number 20, a trade could be the best way for Denver to improve the position. Why settle for someone like Tyler Conklin when you could bring in a proven star like Mark Andrews? He's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end, and while his playoff performance wasn't ideal, he still had a solid season. A fresh start with a new team could be exactly what he needs. Another player that's been getting some attention is Dallas Goedert. There's been some buzz around him lately, especially after the Eagles made the surprise move of trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Texans. It seems like Philly isn't necessarily rebuilding, but there could be some changes on the horizon. For the Broncos, if they're looking to improve the tight end position, Goedert could be another great option to consider. I do think the Broncos are making some financially smart moves here, though. Now, I know the lights just turned on, and the last time that happened, Dre Greenlaw signed with the Broncos. So, I'm half joking. If anyone walks through that door and announces that Evan Ingram is signed, let me know. But in all seriousness, the Eagles might be looking to make some salary-saving moves, and Dallas Goedert could be one of those moves. Goedert is a solid tight end, and I'd definitely be interested in seeing him join the Broncos. I could see the Eagles deciding to part ways with him, especially considering the investments they've made in players like A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Devonta Smith. Plus, with a very talented tight end class coming up, this could be the perfect time for the Eagles to sell high on Goedert and go with a cheaper, younger option. It's definitely something that could happen. As I've said before, Denver has plenty of motivation to go big on a tight end. The position was a real letdown in 2024, and the numbers show it. Whether or not they actually make a move remains to be seen, of course. But when it comes to the price tag, I'd leave it up to you to decide which player you'd rather trade for. I don't think the cost would be that far apart between Goedert and Mark Andrews. I doubt they'd need a first, second, or third round pick to get one of them. A more realistic option could be a combination of later round picks, maybe a fourth and a sixth, or some kind of pick swap. I think you could get either Goedert or Andrews for a day 3 draft pick, which seems like a fair deal. So if you had to pick one, who would you rather trade for? Let me know your thoughts. Before we wrap up, let's take a quick look at some of the moves the Broncos have made in free agency, as well as some of the players who've left. First up, they finally signed long snapper Jared Stum to a 2-year, $12 million contract. I'm a fan of this move. Investing in the backup QB position is important, and Stum can do a solid job supporting Nick Jones. Speaking of Jones, he came back with a much bigger price tag than I expected. Don't get me wrong, I like the player, but the contract is a bit surprising. As for Matt Peer, he'll continue to serve as a swing tackle and a special teamer. Now, the big spicy additions. Denver made some noise with safety Talanoa Hufanga, who signed a 3-year, $45 million contract from San Francisco. This move should really boost the defense. I'm really excited about the Broncos' recent signings, especially with Dre Greenlaw on a 3-year, $35 million deal. I love both of these moves. To me, they're not overpays at all. They're right in line with what I expected compared to other players in similar positions. Greenlaw at $35 million is a steal when you look at Cody Bond, who after just one solid season got $21 million from the Titans. The Titans have a habit of overpaying for Broncos players. Looking at you, Cushenberry and Barton. I like Cody Barton, but $21 million feels a bit too much. But these two signings, Greenlaw and his former teammate, could go down as some of the best free agent acquisitions the Broncos have made in the past 5 to 10 years. Bold take? Maybe. But I genuinely believe Greenlaw is going to be a perennial Pro Bowler for Denver and a fan favorite as an inside linebacker. These moves are a huge win. And if I end up being wrong, well, the contracts are pretty manageable. Both deals are 2 years with guarantees that I'd estimate around $20 million. So even if things don't work out, it won't create a financial disaster for Denver. Now, on to the departures. I really liked backup Williams last year, and I wish him the best of luck in Tennessee. I understand Greenlaw's decision to go to a team where he has a better chance of playing. Backing up Tua, you know your number is likely to be called at some point. It's a tough break for Williams, though. His injury was a real shame because I feel like he could have been something special for the Broncos. As for Riley Dixon, he's off to the Buccaneers for a better payday. Keep an eye out for the Broncos making a punter signing soon. Speaking of punters, don't forget about Ryan Stonehouse, the Colorado State legend. He's recovering from an ACL injury, but he's got one heck of a leg. If he's healthy, I'd be excited to see him get a shot with the Broncos. That's all for today. It's been a whirlwind 72 hours of free agency, and we're just getting started. Make sure to subscribe below for all the latest updates on signings, rumors, trades, and everything else you need to stay on top of the action.